Let us now study about the types of clutches and brakes. In order to study this, I invite you to please consult the handouts that I have already uploaded. If you go to page number page number 7 of the handout. So let's start the topic, types of clutches and brakes. So there are mainly three types. We will study all of them one by one. The first one is the positive contact clutch. So in this case, the means of energy transfer is mechanical contact. And how that contact is established? So generally there are toothed surfaces on both sides, on both elements, right? So you can see a figure of this on the top figure on page 7 of the handout. So these are used for transmitting large amount of torques and however these are mostly suitable for clutches and are not very suitable for the brakes application. For brakes. The second and most common type of clutches and brakes is friction clutches. So as I said, these are the most common types. And these also are, they come in different arrangements. So we will see some of the arrangements here. So this is the second figure on page 7 of the handouts. So you can see a friction clutch there. So one of the arrangement is disc brake or clutch. Disc brake or clutch. Now in this case, the friction surfaces are flat and perpendicular to the shaft axis. So the friction surfaces are flat and perpendicular to the shaft axis on which they are mounted. The second type of friction clutches or brakes is drum brake or clutch. So these are all common types. You must have seen some of these in automobiles or in bicycles or motorcycles. So in drum brakes we have the cylindrical friction surfaces. So the principle is still friction, but the friction surfaces are cylindrical. in nature. And similarly, we have cone brake or clutch, in which case the friction surfaces are conical. Now there are a few other things that you should know about the friction clutches. Is that sometimes heat is produced between the frictional surfaces. So we may have to introduce oil between the two surfaces so that heat is transferred away from the surfaces. So oil is introduced for heat transfer. Otherwise, heat will destroy the surface. It will burn off the surfaces of the clutch or brake. Similarly, in case of friction clutches, we may have not only a single set of discs or single disc set of drums, but we may have multiple sets in the same system. Let us now go to the third type, which is overrunning, or these are also called one-way clutches. An example of this clutch is given in the bottom figure on page 7 of the handout. So one example that is given in the handouts is called wrap spring clutch, and these actually operate automatically based on the relative velocity of two elements. So now what does that mean? So I'll explain shortly. Based on relative velocity of two elements. So basically the clutch is automatically engaged when there is velocity in a certain direction, but if the element rotates in the opposite direction, the clutch does not engage. So that is why it is called overrunning or one-way clutch. So it provides a connection only in one direction and not in the other direction. Now these are the main types of clutches, but there are a few other which I suggest that you read from the book, and that is also part of your curriculum. For example, number 4 is magnetic clutches. Similarly, we have also clutches which work on the principle of centrifugal force, and we also have a sort of couplings which are called fluid couplings. So this topic I suggest you should read yourselves as well as the types which I have explained here. These are all given in the book with diagrams and figures. You should self-study all of this from the book.